ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I have a brand new top 10 for you all, and I am going to be going through my top 10 favorite movies of 2022 so far. So yes, I know I'm a little bit late on this one. Most people release their versions of this list either at the beginning of July, some of them maybe at the end of July, so I am a bit late, please forgive me. However, I still absolutely wanted to get this one out to you all. And some of you may be scratching your head saying that it is just a little too late for this one and my end of the year list isn't going to change much from this one. If I'm being completely honest, with the many heavy hitters that are still on the way in this fall and holiday season, I am fairly confident that my end of the year list is going to look much different than the list you're getting today. Before I hop into the actual top 10 itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my top 10 videos, so be sure to check that out and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. And now in typical me fashion, it is a top 10, which really means it's like a top 12 or 13 because as always I have a couple of honorable mentions. And those honorable mentions are The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is probably this year's funniest movie, Turning Red, which I thought was an excellent new addition to the Pixar catalog. And lastly, brace yourselves because this is going to be a controversial one, The Northman. Yeah, I didn't love it quite enough to put it on this list today. However, this one is the most likely of my honorable mentions and every other movie that I've seen this year that with a rewatch or two, it may actually end up on the end of the year list. And now, number 10, Scream. Yeah, I bet that Northman honorable mention is a lot more controversial now that you have seen what is at my number 10 spot. Look, long story short, I adore the original Scream. It is quite possibly my favorite slasher of all time. It's a toss-up between that and the original Halloween. When Wes Craven passed away, I was devastated. When they announced the new Scream movie, I was a little surprised, but not so surprised because that's all Hollywood does nowadays. But when they said that it wasn't going to be a full-blown reboot or remake and that we're actually going to have some of the original cast members back, I was a little bit concerned because this was going to be the first Scream movie to not be directed by Craven. And the only other notable thing that this duo of directors has done is Ready or Not. And then they announced that the cast was also going to be filled with a bunch of new faces, young up-and-comers. I was a little bit skeptical to say the least. Nevertheless, when I finally got to sit down in that theater, all of my doubts were pretty quickly washed away. And although it's not perfect and definitely not my favorite of the Scream franchise because nothing has even come close to the original, I had an absolute blast. I thought there was some fresh new ideas, a lot of homages, and I felt that they honored Wes Craven's and the franchise's legacy extremely well. Number 9, Prey. After the last Predator movie, I don't think anyone was really chomping at the bit for a new one, and especially one that was announced to go straight to streaming and not getting a big theatrical release for the first time in the character's history. However, I still remained hopeful because the director of 10 Cloverfield Lane, Dan Trachtenberg, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, was sitting in the director's chair for this one, and then they announced that the setting was going to be in the 1700s and following a Native American tribe. The trailers I felt looked great, and for the most part, I had a total blast with this one and was pleasantly surprised by just how much I enjoyed it. I thought Amber Midthunder was a fantastic lead. The action was satisfyingly brutal and bloody. The 1700s setting was a fantastic choice for this franchise. I loved the new look of this new prehistoric looking Predator, as well as all of the technology that came with this new version, or I guess technically old version. I thought the cinematography was great, the score was ominous and perfectly suited the tone of the movie. I had a lot of positives, however there are some negatives here too, but nevertheless it is definitely a worthy entry into this franchise. Number 8, Elvis. I really struggled with where to put Elvis on this list because there are a ton of things that I loved about this movie. I love Elvis, I love the vast majority of Elvis's songs, I love the era that he was in. Austin Butler's performance, if he doesn't get nominated for all of the big awards, I'm going to be blown away. This dude has a very, very, very high potential at actually taking home that Best Lead Actor Oscar. Honestly, I really do believe that. Your enjoyment of this movie, though, will really come down to if you enjoy Baz Luhrmann's style of directing. If you've seen something like The Great Gatsby or really any of his other movies, you're going to know right away if you are going to enjoy this movie or not. But I feel like Elvis's life fits perfectly with Baz Luhrmann's style. Tom Hanks is getting bashed a lot for his performance in this one, and I don't really know why. It's definitely not his best, but I thought he was perfectly fine, in all honesty. Sure, the movie's a touch too long, and it doesn't go into the darker aspects of Elvis's life that I really would have liked to have seen explored more, so there are some things that were left out of this movie, but overall it is the complete package. You see where Elvis began, and you see where Elvis essentially ended, and everything in between, for better or for worse, and Austin Butler gives one of the best performances in recent memory. Number 7. X. And some of you might be surprised by this one as well. Look, truth be told, the slasher subgenre of horror is my favorite subgenre. I love me a good slasher, and X is a damn good one. That's also why Scream is featured on this list too. Just a total soft spot for slashers. Even when they're not that good, they can still be fun. It's a win-win when it comes to these kinds of movies. However, this one, Ty West's X, is not a guilty pleasure by any means. It is an excellent movie through and through. With superb performances from the vast majority of the cast, this one is a callback to the iconic and unforgettable classic 70s slashers. It is gory, it is horny, it is violent, it is brutal, and a very, very unforgiving movie. There's a few chuckles in here, some interesting characters with some mildly interesting backstories, and a whole lot of extremely violent kills for you horror junkies out there. Number 6. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. This one may also be seen as a little bit controversial, because most other people seem to have this in the 1, 2, or 3 spot. However, it's a bit further back for me. I think it is one of the most creative movies I have ever seen, with phenomenal performances across the board, great visual effects. It really dives into that multiverse theory better than any other movie I have ever seen, including another movie that will be featured later on this list. It went all in on this multiverse, giving us crazy, new, creative, funny, funky, over-the-top, completely nonsensical, and in some other cases, very realistic, different universes to explore. Again, this has to be one of the most unique and imaginative movies I have ever seen, and Michelle Yeoh gives one of the best leading performances on this list of this year, and really just like Austin Butler in recent memory. But don't get me wrong, it's not just all Michelle Yeoh. The rest of the cast, like I said earlier, is also superb. However, I do have a few issues with it that some people are probably going to come at me for, and that's why it's a little bit back. I found that it was a bit too slow starting, and then I felt that although I enjoyed its themes and I enjoyed its messages, it just drags out its ending a little too much for me. It is still enjoyable and it's good, it's far from bad. It's a great ending in all honesty. However, they just dragged it and stretched out a little bit more than I think they needed to. Number 5. Bullet Train. This one could also potentially be seen as controversial because a lot of people are actually not loving this movie like I did. I loved it. I thought it was one of the most just purely fun and entertaining movies I have seen in a long, long while. It doesn't take itself too seriously, it's got a ton of style, the comedy worked well for me, the action was fan-freaking-tastic, fast-paced, and well shot. I loved the score to the movie, I loved the soundtrack, all of the characters were unique, vibrant, over-the-top, goofy, fun. I thought that they all had excellent chemistry, they worked really well with one another, and although it was a touch too long, especially that third act, there's slower moments that I felt just didn't really mesh with the way the rest of the movie was going at a very breakneck pace. I enjoyed the shit out of this movie and cannot wait to watch it again. Number 4. The Black Phone. There have been a lot of great horror movies this year apparently, and The Black Phone, as of right now, is the best of the best in my opinion. Ethan Hawke gives a brilliant performance as our lead villain, with a truly memorable mask that can switch based on his mood and how he is feeling. He is creepy, he is eerie, it's very unnerving anytime he's on screen, and I loved that. But the real standouts here, even bigger and better than Ethan Hawke in this movie, are the 2 lead child actors, this brother and sister duo. They killed it, knocked it out of the park, some of the best child performances that I can personally remember. And although yes, the trailer did give away a bit too much, it really didn't spoil my enjoyment for this one at all. I thought it was a tense, atmospheric, ominous, and very haunting tale from start to finish that really had the adrenaline pumping the whole time. It was a unique concept, and director Scott Derrickson proves once again why he does his best work in the horror genre. Number 3. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So I'm just gonna come out and say it. Yes, Everything Everywhere All at Once did do the multiverse side of things better. However, as most of you know, I'm not ashamed to admit it at all. I am a huge MCU fanboy, a Disney shill, whatever name you want to call me. It's not gonna hurt me because that's just the truth. I adore the MCU. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was no different. Although I feel like they've hit a bit of a slump lately, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is not a part of that slump because I loved this movie so much, apparently a lot more than most other people did. And a lot of that comes down to director Sam Raimi, because this is the most uniquely and potentially best directed movie in the MCU. His style, his fingerprints are all over it. I love the horror elements in here, it works so well. I love Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, as our villain. Elizabeth Olsen is stellar, and Benedict Cumberbatch is just as good, once again, as Doctor Strange. Xochitl Gomez as America Chavez is a wonderful new addition to the MCU, and although again the multiverse wasn't as mad as we were hoping, there weren't a ton of cameos everywhere and we didn't explore so many universes as we were expecting, I personally felt that this movie's more personal, down-to-earth story worked better than what we were all thinking this was going to be. Either way, I know I'm definitely in the minority on this one, but this is by far one of my favorite movies of the year. Number 2, Top Gun Maverick. This movie had no, I repeat, no business being this damn good. Holy shit, people. I think it was on my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year list for like 3 years in a row. And now I totally understand. This movie is already one of the highest grossing movies of all time, and with good reason. The reviews are not lying to you. I did my own review. I am not lying to you. Easily among this year's best movies. Probably one of the best movies of the 2020s when it's all said and done. This is a legacy sequel done right, and I cannot say enough good things about it. Number 1, The Batman. If you know me at all, you probably should have seen this one coming. Like I said, I am a self-proclaimed MCU fanboy, Disney shill, whatever, but even more than that, I am a Batman fanboy. Batman is my favorite fictional character ever. I had insanely high hopes for this one, but I was confident. I know that Robert Pattinson has grown far beyond what he gave us in Twilight. Matt Reeves gave us the final 2 parts of the new Planet of the Apes trilogy. Those are some of the best movies of the 2010s. You had Michael Giacchino composing the score for this one. The trailers blew my mind. Colin Farrell, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, one of the best and most underrated actors working today, gave one of my all-time favorite villain performances in this. And from start to finish, even though it's almost 3 hours long, this movie is nearly flawless. It is, dare I say it, the perfect Batman movie. I cannot recommend this one enough because it's not just your typical straight up superhero movie. It's more of a detective murder mystery story than anything. Think Zodiac meets Seven, squish them together with Batman as your main character, and that's what you get in The Batman. This one is borderline a masterpiece depending on who you ask, and without a doubt the #1 movie of the year so far, and I'd say there's a fairly good chance it's gonna end up as my favorite of the year at the end of the year as well. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my top 10. While you're at it, be sure to let me know what your top 10 picks are for the best and or your favorite movies of 2022 so far. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, and if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.